Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Art Journaling for Joy, Finding Resilience Through Creative Expression. My name is April, and I will be your Zoom host for today. This program is presented as part of our free Hope series, Healing Online for People Everywhere, which we created in 2020 at the start of the pandemic to support the resilience of our global community through social emotional arts. We would like to begin today by acknowledging the Tongva Nation, whose land the city of Los Angeles, where we are based, rests today. We hold respect and gratitude for the Tongva people who still consider themselves the caretakers of this land. By their example, we are reminded of our responsibility to our planet and to one another. Let's take a moment in our own way to honor the Indigenous communities of past and present on whose land you are joining from today. Today's program is in a meeting format, so please keep yourself muted until the end of the program, at which time we will have a question and answer period. We suggest that you stay on gallery view throughout the session. We invite you to add your pronouns to your name. To do that, you can click on participants, and then there's a little three dots that you can click on and rename and add your pronouns if you care to. There will be a 15-minute Q&A after the program is finished. Please feel free to submit your questions in the chat box throughout the program, and Nadia will answer them during the Q&A time at the end. Today, let's welcome Nadia Fernanda Paredes. Nadia is a bilingual and bicultural licensed marital and family therapist. She also holds a degree in psychology, a certification as an institutional painting facilitator, and as a trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy provider. She brings over a decade of experience working in the mental health field, where she has provided bicultural services to pregnant adolescents, Latino immigrants, seniors, and as a consultant for emergency preparedness. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Nadia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. All right, so we will have, where did the presentation go? I can't see it. Can everybody else see it? No, there it is. All right. Here we go. Well, thank you, April, for the kind introduction. I will just go very quickly right now. We will cover today so that you know what to expect. So we're going to talk about why the arts, are so important for our general health. And then we're also going to talk about how art is actually for everybody, right? Like, I'm a huge advocate, for telling everyone that everyone can do art, that is not this just kind of like specific thing for talented people. Then we're going to have our first art exercise, which is called Emotional Color Palette. And then we will go into the intro to art journaling, what is and how to do it. Or at least how I suggest you start doing it. Again, there is no right or wrong way to do art journaling, but again, this is just for those who are beginners and who want some steps to know how to move forward. Then we will also go to creative rules for today. So kind of like, what can you follow for yourself to know that you're doing a good job? Then we're going to go into actually creating, and oh no, I said 5 things that bring me joy and I changed the exercise. I do apologize for that. It's actually rising from the ashes. And then again, sorry about that. And then, then we'll go into also some questions that I like to pose, usually my clients, to go into self-explorations, just questions that you can ask yourself during your creative process to go into more of an introspective kind of like lens when you're creating art, for yourself. Next slide, please. Let me actually. Beautiful. All right. So why are the arts so important for general health? Well, it turns out, that so Wilkinson and Chilton, who are both art therapists, they wrote in their beautiful book, Positive Art Therapy, about how engaging, in art as with a healing intention can actually be used as a preventive mental health practice. Right. So why? Well, because if you engage in the arts, it can help you, express your emotions, and it can help you, therefore, have a better emotional management, and at the same time help you to be more authentic, right? Because it is a space where you can be you and nobody needs to judge you for that. There's also this part of, that engaging in the arts can actually help you develop skills, like life skills, which are, problem solving. I think we can all use some problem solving skills. Then we also have, kind of like with invention, right? Like we have to come up with new things with solution. It's kind of like creativity is a muscle, and creating art is part of the exercise of it. It can also help us innovate, and it can help us, stay connected with ourselves. Sometimes when we're going through, everyday life, it can feel a little bit, kind of like you're in this machine that doesn't stop, right? So we sometimes need to just take some time to breathe in and go back into ourselves and notice what we're doing and if we're happy doing what we're doing. Also, and it's not only kind of like the expressive arts therapies realm that know that the arts are great. It's actually the World Health Organization published a report in 2017 where they summarized 900 studies that proved the strong correlation that the arts in general, again, not only visual arts, which is what we're talking about today, but also music and dance and, and writing and all the arts have a really good impact on our general health and well-being. Right? So it is important to join the arts. And I will give you a little bit of like how I see engaging art in for ourselves and hopefully the world sooner than later. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So, art is for everybody, right? I don't know. I mean, and if you're an art therapist, I don't know if I have art therapists here in the room with me, but I can tell you that for so many times when I tell people I'm an art therapist, the first response I get, I don't do art. I am not talented. I am not an artist. Right? And that is a common question. People are very, very afraid of engaging in the arts. However, it's because there's a huge difference in the way we see arts and the way the rest of the world sees art, which is fine art versus art that is fine for me. Fine arts is the world of galleries, professional artists who train to become, to work as therapists, to get paid to be artists, to get paid for their work. Art that is fine for me is just art that I do for myself, that I can put away, throw into the trash, like art that I don't care, that just really just helps me clean my soul and then move on with my life. So that's the art that we're talking about here. Just knowing, and encouraging our clients and encouraging people to know that you can do art just for yourself. It does not need to be on a wall. Don't worry, because I believe that actually art is more than a pretty picture on a wall. And how is it that I engage with the arts? Well, I think there's also this divided way of see art, which is process-based art making and then product-based art making. Product-based is making art as something that you can sell, as something pretty, again, fine art, galleries, and talking about like the end product before you create it. You make a plan to create this end product and know how it will look like. When we talk about process art, we really don't know how the art will look in the end because we're just making the choices as we go, and we're just painting and creating and drawing as we see fit. And then in the end, we get surprised with whatever it is that we created. And we just know from the inside that it is done. We just know like, oh, okay, it's out there. And I'll tell you how to do this, right? Step by step. Also, when we start to engage in art in this way, what happens is we start to build new neural pathways, right? In this study from Peter Tay in 2015, I hope I didn't, murder that horrible way of pronouncing the last name. Like they realized that the more we do things, more frequently, we start to retrain our brain to be different, and therefore we start to build new ways of connecting, our neurons, and therefore we start to engage with life differently. So it is important when we start to create art on a daily basis in short, simple exercises, we just start to show ourselves how different our life can be, right? Because the art is a safe space to try new things, right? I can make something horrible and it's okay because it's on a piece of paper. I'm not damaging anybody, right? So I can just do this. And if I practice, just making horrible art every day, imagine what it would do in 30 days later, right? If I'm just doing horrible art intentionally for 30 days, I will realize like nothing happens if I make horrible things. And so that will definitely change even the way I see life, because I might start to realize, maybe, screwing up will not be as world ending as I think it is. Also, we have to talk about the concept of artistic scar. And I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the concept or not. I have usually half and half, people who really know this concept and people who don't. However, for those of you who don't know, so the artistic scar is a concept that was explained by Brené Brown. And if you want to listen to this podcast. It's fantastic. It's an interview. It's called Big Magic. It's by Elizabeth Gilbert, and she interviews Brené Brown. It's a beautiful podcast where they talk about exactly creativity and how Brené Brown was pretty much against it. She was one of those that was like, arts, what do we need them for? And then after realizing and getting herself into creativity and studies, she realized how important it is, right? And that it is just because you're afraid of how you create that makes you reject the actual artwork. Anyhow, so artistic scar, what happens is that, there's like what she realized, she studies vulnerability, that's her specialty. And she realized that probably 85% of the population in the world experiences something at some point in their lives that changes their self-concept. Like, it was so embarrassing that you said, I will not be this. And that usually, like, from these 85% of people, 50% of those, so we're talking about probably 45% of the population, it's related to art. Like, at some point, somebody told you that you were not good enough, that you did not have the talent, that you did not have what it took to, to be part of the art world. So what ended up happening is that, you stopped creating. And that to me is very, very sad because, and probably a lot of people here can relate. Maybe you had, a parent who told you that your art wasn't good enough, or maybe they told you not that your art wasn't good enough, but that you weren't the artist of the family, that your sibling was the artist of the family, or your cousin. I know that was my case. I had very talented drawing cousins, and of course they were great at creating, and I wasn't. Therefore, I thought I cannot create. But what I thought I could do was do music, right? Because that was where people told me that was my talent. So I dedicated my life, my younger life, to music, because that's where I thought I kind of like fit in. Turns out that what I really wanted to be was a visual artist, and I ended up becoming that later in life. But because of the artistic scar, I couldn't. So we have to understand that people come from that place, right? From fear of being ridiculed, from fear of being, just told that they're not good, and that is horrible. And then we also have, the inner critic versus the intuitive voice. And this is something very, very important that I want to highlight today. So the inner critic, I think, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I'm pretty sure everyone knows that inner voice that basically tells you that you are not good enough. It tells you that you're not great. It tells you that you're not talented, that what you do is never enough, right? And that voice can stop us, from doing a lot of things. But I have to say, it comes from a good place. It's trying to prevent that you get hurt, right? It's trying to prevent you from ridiculing yourself. So it comes from a good place. However, it's not the best of, it's not the best motivator to do things. So this is why we have to think of the intuitive voice. It's counter voice, right? The one that tells you what you want, the one that tells you what you need. And it's, I don't know, and for some people it's louder, and for some people it's definitely quieter, but it's there and it tells you what you need and want. And we usually tend to quiet it down because it might be sometimes not fortunate, the timing that it has. It can tell you like, oh, I want to do this now. And you're like, this is not the time. I cannot just leave, my work and go to the beach. Maybe I do need to go to the beach, but what I can take from the intuitive voice maybe is I need a break. Right? I cannot do it in the moment, but I can just start listening to it and listen what I need and just give it to myself, even if it's not in the right time or in that same amount. Maybe I don't live close to the beach. So maybe what I can do is just kind of like listen to some ocean, put ocean waves on YouTube and close my eyes and imagine I'm at the beach, right? Sometimes it's just about how we can give ourselves what we need in a creative way. Can I have that for the next slide, please? Thank you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little exercise that I love to do with my clients because I like to just show people that, yes, anybody can do art. And this is a great way to do it. Sorry. Is everything okay, April? Was it you? No? Okay, sorry. I just heard something. Anyhow, so we're going to do something very easily. You're just going to grab a piece of paper, any piece of paper you have. I usually like to use, recycled paper for this kind of work. But you can use, again, if you already have your journal with you, just use your journal. That's fine. If you have that notebook in front of you, that's okay. What I want you to do now is just, I want you to fold, if you can, the paper in half. If you cannot, and you have your sketchbook, just just draw a line that divides the paper in half, right? So If you want, April, we can just go back to the main screen so that people can see what I'm talking about. Because I know in sharing, my screen gets very small. Thank you. So what we're going to do is very simple. If you have, again, if you have a regular paper, fold it in half. If you don't, if you have your sketchbook, just divide your paper in half. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, don't worry. And then you're going to divide it again in half. So you're going to have 4 squares in front of you. If you have your paper, then you're just going to fold it in half again. And then you're going to have 4 squares again in front of you. What matters is that you have 4 squares on your paper, right? The division is what matters here. All right, so in this exercise, and I'll explain all about it at the end. I just wanted to engage in the art, and then we'll talk about what it means. So what I want you to do now, you can grab, again, your markers or your pencils, whichever you prefer. I'm going to use markers so that I can show you later what I did, and you can actually see it. And so what you're going to do, you're going to look at your colors, and I want you to pick a color that for you represents happiness today. Just look at your colors and grab a color that represents happiness. Once you've chosen that color, I want you to go on that first square, and you're going to take your color on a happy dance. You're just going to think, how does happiness move for you, right? So first square, grab your happy color and take it on a happy dance on the first square, right? So, I'm going to describe it. I usually do this in silence, but since, this is an educational workshop, I'm going to be describing my process, right? So I just think, when I think of happiness, I think of like a lot of energy. Maybe for myself, it's a quicker movement. And it's probably like, I think if I'm dancing, I'm jumping around. And just jumping around makes me smile. All right. Second square. We're now going to look for a color that represents anger for you today. So grab that color that for you is anger today. And on the second square, we're now going to take our our color on an angry dance. Now it's going to be anger. How does anger move, right? So if you think of anger, and I'm going to go second square, anger. Think of anger, it's probably a more determined move. It's probably stronger. It's probably more intense, like the pressure of my color might be more intense on the page than what I was doing before. Maybe it's like hitting something, right? So you can hear me hit something. Third square, we are going to go now into sadness. Pick a color that for you represents sadness today. And just think, how does sadness move? So on that third square, we're just gonna do a sad movement, and maybe sad, it's a little bit more lower paced. The pressure of my color may not be as strong. Maybe it feels, just like very quiet, rested. And then on our fourth square, we're going to choose a color that represents peacefulness. What color is peacefulness for you? And how does peace move? To some people, it might be a rhythmic movement. For some people, it might be a good way to just connect with their breath. And just, breathe in and draw. And breathe out and let it go. Just drawing the rhythm of your breath can be a way to express. And all right, there you have it. I usually move very quick through this exercise because usually people, if I give them more time, they start to think too much. And I don't want you to think. I just want you to jump into the creative process and do, right? Because sometimes the fear is what keeps us from creating. Um, and so let me show you a little bit. Of course, our art will be all different, right? I've done this exercise. I cannot tell you how many times. And I can tell you every time it looks different. The colors are different. And this is why I recommend, this is a great exercise, for your art journal, because you can do this daily and it'll be different. Why? Because the colors you choose also depend, and the movement you choose depends on your mood, right? And if you're having a good week, the colors you'll choose probably will be very different than if you're having a bad week. So I just invite you again, this is a way to use your journal, just to get it out. Maybe at the end of the day, you're just like, how do I feel? And maybe, write down those feelings and then paint them this way. And it's just a way for you to do this very quickly. So can we go back to the presentation now? Thank you. All right. Also, this is a great exercise you can do, for coloring books. If you like coloring books, this is also a way to kind of like inspire yourself, to color with more intention. If you're coloring with a certain color to represent a certain emotion, you will be able to, again, use the movement and then help, the coloring page, be a way to contain your emotion in a more meaningful way. But anyhow, so now let's get back to business. So what is like art journaling? How do we do it? This is why you came for. And so let me tell you, art journaling, is something that I started doing intuitively as a teenager. I've been doing art journaling for myself for as long as I can remember. And it was beautiful to see when I became an art therapist that this was actually a practice and that there were books written about it. And so this book, sorry, the person that inspires me to create, or at least to inspired me to look into art journaling more in the art therapy realm, is this book. It's called Visual Journaling, and it belongs to Gannon and Fox. It was created in 1999. So it's not that I follow the exact same thing, what they say. I do. It's heavily inspired the work that I do. However, I use my art therapy background to adapt some things so that it could be more friendly to a broader population of artistic capabilities. And so what is an art journal? Well, it's like a written diary, but instead of only words, you will use images. Right? It's like we can add to it. So it helps, what our journals do, they help us record our thoughts, memories, or emotions. And it's a great way, to see how much you've advanced. Like I love looking at my older art journals and just notice like, oh, wow, look how much I've grown since then. I also keep art journals for very different things. Like I have a work art journal, which is where I process all my work stuff. I have a personal art journal. I have a journal for my mom, like for me being a mom as a mother, to record like my motherhood journey, etc. So, it can be used on many different things and it can help just organize your mind, basically. The beauty about it is that you will use symbols, colors, and your own unique vision to bring to life abstract concepts such as thoughts and feelings. Like if you're feeling angry, it's hard sometimes to express it in words only, right? But there can be an image that will show exactly how you feel. Like if I think of collage, for example, you can look for an image and it'll just boom, show out there how you're actually feeling. And it's not words. You cannot explain it. You're just like, this is how I feel. Right? Because I mean, after all, they say, an image says more than 1,000 words. And this is why visual journals are so amazing. They can serve as great containers, again, for difficult emotions. They can help you to express yourself, to express your authentic ideas. And it can also be very private, right? Because visual language, you can code it for yourself. So people don't, I mean, if you have a journal, you risk at someone reading it and knowing what you think. Whereas here, because you're using symbols and colors and abstract notions, only you know what it means. It does not have to necessarily be something for everyone to know. So it's kind of like you doing your own kind of like creative lock on your thoughts and feelings. And that's why it can really allow for authentic self-expression and hold, all of your life's happenings. And next slide, please. Thank you. So what are the journaling steps? So again, I'm giving you the journaling steps similar to what you will find in the visual journaling book of Ganem and Fox. However, I tweaked it a little bit to simplify some of the art concepts because, sometimes for people can be very daunting to think, oh, like imagine something and then draw it. And then people think they literally have to draw, something that is very complicated, and that triggers people. So I kind of like simplified it a little bit. Again, these steps are for beginner art journalers. It's not necessarily that it's the right or wrong way to do it. I really want to highlight that. Like, this is my suggestion, but it's not like this is the only way to create our journals. Like, I don't follow these steps anymore because I'm used to just jumping right into the, into my creating process. But for those who are beginners, let's be mindful. So number one, and the most important thing, the only thing that I really always do, no matter what, is I set the intention for my creative, time. Like, if I'm working on my art journal, I have to be very clear, why am I creating today? Like, okay, I'm very angry today. Okay, I'm expressing my anger. I want to let the frustration out. Great. That's my intention. That's what I want to do during this creative process today on this particular page. And what it will do is it will be a guide to our creative process, right? Because again, we don't know how it will look in the end. This is process art. So what will guide us is just like, I'm expressing anger. And then I can just, if I feel lost in my creative process, I can always go back. Is it helping me express the anger? No, it's not. I got lost. Okay, good. Then what do I need? And then I hear my intuitive voice. I try to just listen and be like, okay, what do I really need to express this anger, right? And it might be change of colors, change of posture, take your journal, tear the page, I don't know, right? And then you just allow it to happen. Second thing you can do after kind of like having clarity on your intention is relax, right? We want you to relax because that will disconnect your mind from your body. But like our feelings live in our body, and if we're thinking too much, we're in our brain mode, then we will not connect to the emotions. So number two, relax. Super way to do it. Very easy. Two ways. One, just take a deep breath and notice how your breath kind of like holds all that tension. So you breathe in and hold the tension, and then hold it. Just hold it and feel the tension in your body. Breathe in a little bit more, and then breathe out and let it all out. Just loosen your body. And that already can be a quick way to jump into relaxation. Another way to do it, you can just set a timer on your phone for a minute and notice your breath. This is a mindfulness exercise. Just notice how your breath feels and describe it to yourself. That can be a great way, again, to just kind of like bring your mind down and reconnect with your body. Next slide, please. Then the third is we're going to take the dive in. So how do I start creating, right? If I'm a beginner creator and I don't know how to create. So you're just going to close your eyes and ask yourself, if there's a color, a movement, an art material, or an image that can help you represent what you want to express during the session, right? Just, you can just think, I'm angry. I'm going to take that same example. I'm angry. Is there a color that can help me today? Is there a movement that can help me today? Maybe I just want to tear paper because I'm angry and I just want to destroy things. Okay, destroying an art is a safe way, to hold that destruction. Or, maybe there's an image. Maybe I'm like, oh, I'm like a volcano, and, maybe you don't have collage images that have volcanoes, but maybe you can go, Google and just Google search a volcano that serves as inspiration. Or if you have a printer at home, you can print it out. Or, it's just, again, it's just for you to have that visual image out there. And then what happens is, listen to your first, intuitive thought, and then stop worrying about that the vision you have will not be exactly represented on your journal. Sometimes we think like, oh, I thought of a volcano. I need to draw a volcano. I don't know how to draw volcanoes, and now I don't know what to do. So it's just about maybe thinking, okay, what does the volcano do? If my image is a volcano, maybe think of what colors does a volcano have? Maybe that can start as an inspiration. Or maybe it's just like, oh, the bursting. Oh, maybe I can take some, paper and crumple it up and then just paste it inside my journal and have it just be standing for a while, kind of like erupting. Or maybe I just need the notion of explosion, right? So maybe I just need to draw lines that are showing this explosion motion, right? So that can be the way to start creating. And then number 4, will you start creating? Whatever thought you had at first, just take the jump in, do that first thought. And then from there, just let your intuition lead the way. Let your inner thoughts just show like, what do I want to do next? And allow yourself. I think permission is one of the biggest parts here, because you will want to do all these things and you won't allow yourself to do them. Can I have the next slide, please? So for today, we're going to create something on our journal. And so for today, just the creative rules are very simple. Number one, how your artwork looks doesn't matter. Take the aesthetics out of this and just use the materials to express yourself. Number two, inner critic will go on vacation, right? And remember, there's no way to ridiculing yourself here. You're in a safe space. This is a journal you can close and never, ever see it again. So tell the inner critic, thank you, but no thank you. Use this time to replenish and nourish yourself. I think that's what matters most. Just take this time to give yourself what you need and want. Always remember, your intention is the guide. Intention, intention, intention. If you feel lost, if you don't know what to do, just go back to your intention. Why was I creating today? And that's what matters. If you have too many thoughts, remember you're playing with art materials. It's just play. With play, there's nothing unsafe, right? Playing is about testing. So just remember, I'm just testing to see how this feels for me. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, you can always change the game. And also, please, we don't comment on other people's art. I know today we won't be sharing art with each other, however, due to time, limitations. But I know that it's important always to say, if you're going to comment on other people's art, that can interrupt a process. Because again, this is process-based art making. If I tell you your art is pretty, it becomes an object already, and then I won't want to touch it anymore because it's pretty and it's been accepted by society. So I will be very protective of it. That's why I always suggest no, oh, that's so pretty. That is so nice. Second, also telling someone that their art is ugly, that is horrible, people. Please don't say that someone's art is horrible. That just not, no, don't do it. That's horrible. But anyhow, so next slide, please. And it's time to create. I want to give you guys some time to now engage with your art journals using the basics that we just reviewed. And the directive that we're going to work with today, we've been reflecting a lot about, how this year has been and continues to be, and we don't know where it's going. But when I think, it's like, what has helped me be here today, right? What has helped me continue to navigate the current world's situation of crisis? It's like, I think it's important to acknowledge that part of myself, right? That's resilience. Resilience is what helps me adapt to difficult situations. And so I want you to just take a moment for yourself right now. And I want you to create in your art journal kind of like what has helped you rise from the ashes. And if maybe you're saying, I had a great year, this year it's not been bad at all for me, which can also happen, and that's okay. Sometimes we can feel guilty because, we're not having a horrible experience compared to other people. And it's okay also to acknowledge that. Then maybe just think of like another difficult time in your life that kind of like, how did you rise from that occasion? What helped you pull through, right? What are your inner strengths, basically? So I want you to create some art around it. I already gave you your intention, step number one. So where it's kind of like inner strengths to combat difficulties. Number two, we're going to go into relax. I'm going to give you a brief, just, breathing time. We're going to all get together now. So I want you to just, basically, close your eyes, and we're going to do this. And after we finish the breathing, I want you to just start creating, and we will be creating for approximately 15 minutes. Okay. So just close your eyes right now if that feels comfortable for you. If it doesn't, then I want you just to stare down at the floor, because that sends your brain a signal of relaxation and not having to be alert. I just want you to take one deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth very slowly. Now, during our second breath, I want you to just, when you breathe in, feel any tension in your body. Just notice it. And when you breathe out, let go of that body tension. So breathe in and breathe out. Our last breath, deep as yet. Just take one deep breath in through your nose, very, very deep. Now breathe in a little deeper. Just hold that tension. Notice it. Notice where it's guarded in your body. And breathe out and let it go very quickly. Right now, open your eyes and start creating. Right. Remember, whatever feels right to you right now in this moment, whatever you feel pulled towards, go with it. Whatever materials, if you want to change where you're working, just follow your gut for the next 15 minutes. Okay? We'll see you shortly. Up for the creative part of it. As I always encourage my clients, if you still want to create, continue creating. I don't want to interrupt any creative process going on, particularly if you are in the flow. And I always feel like, I don't know about you, but whenever I am drawing or creating, I'm able to pay better attention to people talking. It's just kind of like a coping skill. That's why kids draw when they're in school. It helps you ground yourself because, I'm again a kinesthetic person. So I'm always moving, right? So if I'm moving on paper, it helps get off my mind of my need to move because it's already moving, and then I can pay better attention. So just an FYI for those of you who need this. So anyhow, next slide, please. So right now, what I want you to do is go into what we call, when we do this, our journaling, again, for self-healing and resilience building, we want to go into self-exploration, after creating. And it's just, these are general questions you can ask yourself, after creating. Kind of like, what materials did you use? Did you choose unstructured materials, which are more or messier, harder to control, or were they structured? Right? Were they structured materials like, markers, pencils, right? It's very, very different. Your choice of materials. I can talk about materials and the psyche all day. It's another part that I specialize in, but today I won't have time to go deeper into that. But if you want, follow me on social media and you can definitely hear me talk about that. And just for yourself, think about it. Then you go into, did I represent an exact image or did it shift, right? Maybe you had a vision of how you wanted to create, but then as you were creating, you notice it changed, it shifted. And again, it's just noticing. It's not right or wrong. It's just noticing. Did you flow with the process? Like, were you able to start creating and then more ideas came up for you, or was it a little bumpy? I know there's days when I'm like, this is just not flowing. And then there's days where I'm just like, the next creative process, like the next creative step just jumps in and I keep creating and don't have to think about it too much. Also, did I give myself permission to do what I wanted? That's another big one. Sometimes, we have to be mindful again. Did I not give myself permission because it wasn't practical? Like, maybe I wanted to use paint right now, but I am here presenting for you guys. If I were to run downstairs to my studio and get art, like get my paint, it would not be appropriate, right? So maybe I did not give myself permission because of that, because it's not logical or practical right now. Maybe later I can use the paint. Or maybe, or was I just, again, thinking it's too ridiculous, I shouldn't do it? Was it because of fear? And again, it's not to judge yourself. It's just to notice, oh yeah, I did not allow myself because of fear, and that's okay. And then did I feel obligated to create something pretty, right? I know for some of us who are more on the artistic side of things, maybe we feel bad about creating things that are not pretty. But in this case, as I was telling you, it's not about how it looks, it's about how it made you feel. And if it helped you gain whatever you wanted to gain during your session. Next slide, please. And then you have the self-exploration part too, which is if you want to take it deeper, right? Again, maybe you ask those questions just to notice where you are. But maybe we can go into, what do these questions mean? Was I able to express myself fully, right? Was I able to really show what I wanted to show? Did I allow myself to show everything on the page? Or was I being, restrictive because I feel it's too much? And if that's the case, maybe I'm not ready to see it, and that's okay. I'm not ready to see the whole mess. Or maybe it's like I should push myself and see the whole mess. And again, it's just to touching base with yourself and noticing what's feeling right for you in the moment. Know when to push comes from the inside. I'm comfortable with change or the unexpected in my life. That's something big, right? If your image doesn't turn out how you expected, that's life too, right? Sometimes life does not come out the way you expected. And how are you with dealing with life in that way? And maybe art can help you cope with that. Did I give myself permission to do what I need? Do I give myself permission to do what I need in general? Or do I limit myself? Like, this is an art exercise, and maybe that reflects back to real life. If I'm not allowing myself to use, I don't know, the watercolors because I think I'm not skilled with the watercolors, does that reflect into my life? Am I not allowing myself to do things because I feel like I'm not good enough for it? And do I hang on to the shoulds and other people's expectations? That can happen too. If I'm very focused on creating something pretty, is it really about me creating something pretty, or is it the fact that I'm afraid of creating something ugly and people judging me for not being good? And again, for all these questions, there are no right or wrong answers. It's just all about self-awareness, right? It's just about being mindful and knowing that, okay, maybe right now I am. Yeah, there are times in my life, of course, where I worry a lot about what people will think about me. Of course, creating this class, I can tell you, I was very afraid. What if I create something ugly and people don't like it? Right. And I was reflecting that on my art. I was being very controlling and I did not want to show. And suddenly I was like, wait, what is happening here? Oh, there you go. It's my inner critic. Okay. It's being very loud lately. Okay. Right. And now I know I need to give it a mic probably for the next couple of weeks to let all the angst out. But anyhow, so I think this is it from my part. I know we still have like 5 more minutes. Here are the citations, if you want to read again. I checked some of the questions on the chat already, so I will give some of my recommendations. However, this is where you can find everything that I talked about during the presentation. Again, highly recommend the Magic Lessons podcast if you're a creative. It's very nice. It's very encouraging. Also, Positive Art Therapy, Theory and Practice, great book with lots of prompts. I know that was one of the questions, like what prompts can I use for my art journal? And there you can find plenty of those. Also, and I would highlight probably visual journaling. Again, this book is highly quoted. When you look into art journaling on any research, you will see this book quoted, right? And also has exercises for you to prompt you if you feel like you don't know what to create. All right. So what I will do now, if anyone is really, really, really wanting to share their experience, the first person to type in the chat the word creator can share with us. And we'll talk about what you created. All right, Sam. There you go. All right, Sam will share with us. And we have time, maybe we'll also have some time for Theresa. There you go. Hi, Sam.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Cool, so show us.
I like to go free form, but I was feeling a little bit more refined and more elemental in my sketches today, and I appreciate the prompts.
All right. And do you know why that is, or you just noticed that right now while you were
Well,
creating?
I wanted to go back and kind of use the second prompt to kind of be in how do you say it, like a composite of what I was already doing with my current emotions for the day. So the first thing I did was like this one, it was just the red. And then I went back and tried to mirror it with the black and the pen. And then this one was just the green. And I went back with the blue to kind of create a deeper image with the perspective. And this was just the yellow lines. And then I filled it in kind of with my flow, trying to be peaceful. And then this one started out with just the blue dots for sadness raining. And then I filled it back up with the red dots going up and then finding a middle ground of like you were saying, being able to adapt, but also accepting where you are at the moment.
See, and all on one page. Like how many pages would you have like needed if you had to write all that down, right?
It's such a good, it'd be cool if I went back and tried to create some buzzwords to fill in the gaps too.
Oh my God, absolutely. When people ask me about art journaling, they're like, is it only images? And I'm like, no, sometimes words help. I do a bunch of like collage words, like, just to help myself sometimes kind of like organize my mind. Usually I feel like if I'm drawn to words, I feel like it's probably my brain trying to organize itself better because I'm feeling scattered. So that was a good thing that you also pointed out for yourself, that you were like, yeah, I needed to like be more organized. Like my style was different today. And that's exactly what this is all about. Just noticing like, yeah, my style changed. Why? Just be curious, right? With yourself, about yourself. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me.
Cool. Thank you. And I know Teresa also wanted to share. She wrote creator on the chat. So why not? We have like one.
1 second.
Sure. All right. Tell us about your process.
So I was thinking, well, there's a lot going on, a lot of chaos, and there's some sadness. My son passed away. Just some things
Okay.
going on, and so I thought I'm gonna paint a tree because they're very relaxing to me, and I've been kind of stressed. And then this just kind of came out, excuse me, where I painted a sky, and I just kind of let the process happen. I painted the sky and then some flowers, and then a little tornado came down in the middle of them. But the flowers have really deep roots, and so they're still blossoming and happy. So, and that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. My God, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so important. We're going through a difficult period in our lives, particularly with grief. I think that, having just this practice to check in with yourself, and to allow, there will be days where yes, maybe flowers are out, and there are days where there'll be clouds, and there are days, and it's just about allowing yourself, just to stay in that state of flow emotionally, because I think that's what grief is all about. It's like riding a wave. And
And my
knowing.
intention was
Mhm.
relaxing, just like kind of
There you
grounding
go.
myself and relaxing. And so this kind of came out of it, and it was
Mhm.
just like, oh, this felt nicer.
Yes. Oh my God. That's, and that's a great point, to just say like sometimes we just need to make a point about relaxing, like, thinking about positive psychology is like sometimes we're just so focused on fixing the wrong that we just don't focus on strengthening the rights. Right. And we need that space, for relaxation, for just be like, I need to just, pain to have a nicer image in my mind, then woo, what better way? So I'm glad that this worked for you. And thank you so much for
I mean,
sharing.
thank you.
No, and thank you for being so open and sharing with us. Thank you. All right. So I know our time is up and we have our Q&A pending. I know they're sending you in the chat. There's some love there, sending you love from Lee. And I know we have some questions. Let me just go back to them. Or if April, if you have like, if you have them ready so I can like read them, that's great.
I do, yes.
Thank
So
you.
Miriam asked, how do I start an art journal? We'd love to have some prompts, which I think you kind of went over, but if you want to elaborate on that, feel free.
Of course, it's like, it really made me think, like, usually I don't use prompts and that drives my clients crazy because I feel like if I give you a lot of prompts, then, then you kind of can be missing out on just checking in with yourself, right? Your own prompt can be, how am I feeling today? Every single day. And that's like the simplest way to go. Sometimes you can use time, where do I want to be? If I'm not comfortable today, where do I want to be? And then create art about it, or use the past. What made me happy before? Right? So I feel like you can always just go back to yourself and notice what wants to come out. But if you do want prompts, and I get it, because again, at least my particular like positive art therapy group that I'm running in Mexico, they always ask me for like more specific prompts. Well, now they're more comfortable with not doing it, but they used to be more more in need of structure for sure. So again, you can always use the book, the visual journaling book by Ganneman Fox. Also, the positive art therapy book has some prompts, like kind of like some ideas on what art you can create to explore yourself better. I think actually on the chat already, April posted the bibliography for it, is the authors, because I know someone asked who are the authors. It's Wilkinson and Chilton. And again, great book. So yeah, so prompts. And also sometimes, I just go ahead and look for guided meditations on YouTube on a theme that I'm interested in. If I'm like, I want to work on abundance, I just go like abundance guided meditations, and I allow myself to just be guided to relax, and then at the same time get some inspiration on what I want to create. Right. So you can also use, again, YouTube and guided meditations for, I guess, a prompt. So I hope that answers the question very well.
And then Adam asked, could you speak to online digital journaling, like in Evernote or some other application, website, or service that you recommend?
Actually, I will be honest, when I read that, I was like, oh, I don't do a lot of like virtual art. I've been just getting into it, kind of like more intrigued because a friend has been using, she's a visual artist. She's also part of one of the groups I used to teach. And she has been posting about, let me tell you the name, Procreate. Apparently it's also like, it's like an app, but it has all these features that you can like use different art materials, and it looks very realistic. So that just got me intrigued into it. Another thing I thought about that maybe it's not art journaling per se. I mean, because you can't really save the I don't know, like save whatever you created. Which is what makes, an art journal an art journal. But that I do love because they're so process based. It's called jacksonpollock.org. That's the website. I can actually, let me see if I have it here with me. It's great to just use this as mindfulness exercise, just use the color and allow for the page to do what it needs to do. It's a lot of fun. And again, you can just create quickly if you're feeling, again, if you're using this exercise of just using motion to express emotion, then you can just kind of like go crazy on your mouse pad, and it'll create, again, random things. Let me see. Yeah, those are the two. I think I had another friend suggest, I haven't checked that one out personally, but she also suggested, let me see, what was the name? What is the name? I just had it with me. There you go. It's Sketchpad. So I don't know if that one you can also save, but she also told me, like, digitally, that's where she's been created. Sketchpad. There you go. Thank you, April. So those are the ones that I know. However, with virtual art, I know this is like the new way to create. And I feel like as an art therapist, I'm in this realm of like, oh, I do love the engaging with like the, again, kinesthetic person over here really wants to engage with the materials and touch them and feel them. However, again, in my area of really expertise going into like what materials trigger in the psyche, I do think that this new virtual world is how the younger generation might be more comfortable with creating, right? And I think that the discomfort is probably more about me not being comfortable with the technology, right? So it's me about not knowing. So, maybe an exercise for me would be, I want to engage in more virtual art and see how that feels for me, right? Like my friend got me curious. Absolutely. Kelly's mentioning on the chat, like one digital resource I use is the Noun project. It's an icon database, and then paste the images into Google Slides. I haven't used it for journaling specifically, but when I get into it, it is a similar experience of intuition and exploration. Yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes that can be. And ways that I tell people, like, if they create online content, I usually tell them, like, you can take a picture of your of your screen and then add it to your physical art journal. Or again, if you want to keep it virtual, then absolutely, I would just kind of like ask back, how do you feel about creating in the virtual realm? And if it's comfortable for you, then please go ahead and do it. Like there is no right or wrong of doing an art journal, right? So thank you. Are there any more questions? I noticed on the chat, there was also a comment that it's from Li Yang. And again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce. I appreciate the separation of process focus versus end product focus. I see this in parallel in my previous professional line of work in quality management system. Absolutely. That's why I think it's very important to highlight this. This is about process art, not like end of work art, particularly for people who are beginning. This can be kind of like this lessens the burden of the art. I think, yeah.
I can share that citation page again if you'd like.
Please. Yes, let's do that. Mm. Okay, so let me see. I see now, like, what is the digital resource like? Well, you're basically sketching on a computer or a phone or an iPad. So everything is created, on screen, and the visuals are virtual. They're not physical. And so, or were we talking about the specific one, the noun project that someone was talking about? Now that I continue to read, sorry. The name of the podcast that gave me inspiration, Big Magic. Or sorry, no, it's called Magic Lessons. Oh my God, I'm giving you the wrong name. Big Magic is her book, but the podcast is Magic Lessons. And by the way, she interviews like big people, kind of like, I don't know if you know Humans of New York. The creator is also interviewed there. And at the same time, again, it's just beautiful. Like, she talks to big people in the industry and how they manage, their inspiration and career.
Can I ask a quick question, Nadia?
Of course.
This is Lee. I didn't understand, or I missed the point about when someone or you mentioned about the digital resource. I totally didn't get it. I don't know how to use it. What is it like? Could you speak to that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, basically, someone was asking, how about creating virtual journals? And so, virtual journals are, they're not what we are used to. Virtual journals, we have them physically. The virtual ones are created online. But then we started to divert into all the resources available to create art virtually, right? There are all these websites, there are all these kind of like different apps that you can use to create virtually. Some save the art and some don't, right? It's like it's just you create in the moment, and then, you close the website, and then boom, your art disappeared, which makes ephemeral art another thing to explore about yourself. How do you feel about your art disappearing? If you want to be in a uncomfortable position to challenge yourself. Or maybe learning to let go. But it's all just kind of like in the virtual realm. And so then there are different websites, different ways to do it. Some websites use words, and then they create images out of the words. And then others are just kind of like you basically drawing, like, do you remember Paint? Like the application that came with computers like in the 90s. Like, that reveals my age. And some people are just laughing. I can see that, like, yes, I know Paint. It was great. You could paint on your computer with your mouse, with your little cursor there. So yeah, it was just about kind of like the resources available, and if you can use them for art journaling. So I hope that answers your question.
That gives me some understanding. I have no clue before this. Okay.
No worries. No, that's okay. It's a new thing, so don't worry.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Okay, are there any more questions or comments? Maybe, maybe you want to say something. You can always, say something too. Will I have future on collage? I don't understand that question. 30-second, like if I'm going to be presenting on collage? Oh, like trainings on collage. Not that I have yet scheduled, but definitely it's one that I love to do. So maybe, maybe it's time to do one collage workshop again. Intuitive collaging, it's very fun. Thank you. Love the content, creative exercises. Oh, I'm glad, Karen. Glad to hear. How to encourage people to share their process out loud when they're not used to do it? Well, there are two different ways. I can tell you, so I create art with my clients, and I know this is a controversial practice as an art therapist. There are many opinions about it. However, I know why I do it and the clinical reasons for it, because I like to create that connection with the clients and know them that, that they're not alone. And then I kind of like exemplify how to talk about the process, because sometimes they're scared because they don't know how to talk about the art. So it's good to just have an example. Another way to do it is I just sometimes know people have a hard time explaining their process because they just like, I just created it. So maybe you can just ask questions, being curious about their art. Oh, can you tell me about how you created this or why you created this. Just kind of like that curiosity can definitely spark, let's say not deeper conversation, but at least spark the whole reflective process. Or sometimes I just tell them to write it down, right? Like if they feel more comfortable and are able to, if they have the capability of writing, I just let them write it down. Just write down how you felt writing this. All right. Thank you. If I have a private practice, I don't have a private practice. I'm actually now just focusing on education. I am it's like working at 3 universities in Mexico, so my schedule is pretty full right now. But thank you for asking. Oh, and collaging workshop, please. Okay, good. All right. Oh my God, absolutely. Can adding written journaling with art journaling be effective? Oh my God, totally. Actually, in the visual journaling book, they talk about this. Like they do talk about doing the written processing of creating, of just kind of like writing down your process, being more thoughtful about, kind of like documenting it. So yes, writing can help. For me, I can tell you personally, it depends. Like there's art that I just love that the art was made and then I'm free, I'm done. I don't want to think about it anymore. So I let it go. But there's art that I do want to process probably more cognitively. So that's when I give myself this space to actually write down and do it. But yes, you can do both, or you can just start writing, and then see if anything prompts there's some art for you, right? You can also do the opposite. If you're like, for people who are asking about exactly the prompts, you can just, do the writing and then see like, oh, maybe this could make a good image. And then you just translate it right into a visual. That can be another way to do this. Again, there is no right or wrongs here. I'm glad. Thank you. Oh, I'm glad. Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Just wonderful. Oh my God. Thank you so much. All right. All right. And you have there all my information, my website, currently changing the name of my company as I'm transitioning now to doing more work in Spanish. So a lot of changes happening on the website, but I'll definitely, still be doing, again, bilingual stuff. So now that I hear that there's an interest for collage, maybe I'll do a collage workshop. I haven't done those like probably in over a year. So time to do it. Yes, rising from the ashes. Absolutely. A huge fan of the phoenix metaphor. So that's why I chose that name. Whenever I'm in a transitioning period, I start to draw, phoenixes. And that's what I noticed. Like, oh, I'm going through a transition. Suddenly my art is all about phoenixes. So whenever I have the urge to create phoenix, I'm like, oh, there you go, transition time.
Well, if there are no other questions, I just want to take a minute and just thank everyone for joining us today. For more information on our upcoming Hope sessions and trainings, you can head over to our website. And to stay in touch with Nadia, her information is on the screen right now. Please, follow her and stay in touch. Thank you, Nadia, for a wonderful program. And
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
yes, absolutely.